Cubivore Survival of the Fittest is a super interesting game. It was actually published by Nintendo in Japan, but Nintendo of America did not want to go anywhere near it. And if you've played Cubivore, none of this should surprise you. It's a game with a dedicated shitting button, okay? And it actually has a gameplay purpose. I'm surprised this thing got localized at all. Who other but Atlas, the weird game publisher that only ever makes 5 copies of the game per country, to publish this incredibly bizarre experiment. Yeah, this one's expensive. It's about $700 on eBay right now. It had gone down for a bit and then it went right back up. Is it worth that? Not really. But it's a really fucking good game. Maybe pirate it, but it's a really fucking good game. You play as this funny little cube guy eating other funny little cube guys to evolve up the food chain and ultimately become king of the Cubivores, bringing color back to the land. You see, this world is ruled by a beast at the top of the food chain that calls himself the Killer Cubivore, and he is a tyrant. He and his lackeys have sucked all the life from the land, and it is your goal to evolve up the food chain, stop him, and become king of the Cubivores yourself. I don't know, you don't really play this one for the story. There's various different colored beasts for you to hunt and mutate into, with different stats and playstyles for each. It's incredibly nuanced. Pale colored beasts are weak and puny, and dark colored beasts are big and strong. Every level throws at least 1 or 2 bosses at you, with the later bosses on each life cycle can get really fucking hard. This game is very good at putting you in a position where it'll make you feel like a badass 1 second, and then immediately afterwards, it'll just make you feel completely and totally helpless. But the challenge is never truly insurmountable. It's just a lot of these bosses deal an absolute shit ton of damage, and you deal like 2 or 3. It might just be because I'm bad at the game, but honestly, I think it actually kind of works. I think it kind of works for the game's balancing and for the general vibe of how the game plays. It doesn't really ever feel frustrating. What does feel frustrating at times, however, is the inaccuracy of the hunting system's controls. You lock on with L and pounce with A, but getting the game to actually lock onto the enemy you want it to, that was a struggle for pretty much my entire playthrough. It just feels imprecise. When you're in an open area aiming for only 1 or 2 other beasts, it's not too bad. But when you're in a crowded boss arena, yeah man, it sucks. It really sucks. Sometimes you'll try to lock onto one enemy, perhaps a boss, and the game will just it'll just be like, nope, you're pouncing on the pale beast that serves as no actual threat. It didn't really hamper my enjoyment of the game all that much, but it was still a problem that I noticed throughout. Fun fact, this was actually originally in development for the Nintendo 64. There's even a leaked prototype, and there's an English patch for it, so you can play this game on the N64, and it's fairly complete. And even the GameCube version, you can kind of tell this was an N64 game at heart. The camera has that moves in steps feeling that a lot of N64 games had because of the C buttons. Doesn't really feel bad, and in a lot of the more calm moments, I feel it does work quite well and benefits the feel of the game. But in more frantic moments, such as a lot of the difficult boss fights, where the guy is just schmooving all over the place and can take out 3/4 of your health in one shot, and you being bad at the game and not having the right mutation for the fight deal almost nothing, it can make the mentioned problem with the lock-on controls feeling imprecise quite a bit worse. The N64 version has some other differences too. The big one is that Clash Beasts aren't in the N64 prototype, instead there's Rage Dark, and from what I played, there's a few other things too. The hunting controls are completely different. Instead of locking on with L and pouncing with A, you just lock on with Z, and then just let go of Z to immediately zoom in, and it feels pretty good, actually. I don't really notice any sort of preference one way or the other between the 2 versions. It feels pretty good, even compared to the GameCube version. Also, the bestiary is completely different. and the boss defeated music seems to be in a different key. I don't know. The intermissions in Rainbow Heaven between life cycles are also missing in the N64 version. I wouldn't be surprised if there's other differences too, but I've not played through the entire thing yet. As alluded to, the game is split into sections, being each life cycle your Cubivore evolves through. You start as a pig, then a bear, then a bird. Each life cycle has its own difficulty curve and final boss, which kind of confused me at first, and then I realized, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You get eaten and die in between and are then reborn, and I think it totally works. That the difficulty level almost resets, in a way, at the beginning of each and then ramps back up. Later on in the game, you start seeing Rage and Clash beasts to hunt and mutate into. Rage beasts being more powerful, and Clash beasts being rage beasts with multiple different colors of meat on them that you have to, like, get in the right order, I think. And these come in once you're a bird and do help a lot with balancing. Okay, now for the spoiler bit. You need 100 mutations to fight King Cubivore. Now for the real spoiler bit. I couldn't be bothered to do this. I actually discovered this when I was reading up on the N64 prototype before I finished the game proper, and frankly I just can't be bothered. It's my playthrough, I will play it how I like. But yeah, 100 mutations. God, you need to be thorough in each level, and I just wasn't. So that's great. This game is an incredibly bizarre experiment, and I really like it, actually. I think it works. It's really fun, almost relaxing in its calmer moments, and incredibly stressful in its more frantic moments. It's genuinely a very good game, and it kind of sucks how expensive and rare the US version is. I know I probably wouldn't have played it if it wasn't, because it's how I heard about it first, but I ended up just buying a Japanese copy for like $30 a couple years ago so I could have a physical copy of this in the collection, and yo-hoing the US version so I could play it in English. I would genuinely pay $60 for this thing on Switch if they ever re-released it, which, to be clear, is not happening. That's never happening. And if they did, it would be Japan only. But buying the US version for $700 or whatever That doesn't support the devs at all. That doesn't support Nintendo. That doesn't support Atlas. I think morally you're fine pirating this one, but, you know, you do you. In short, play this game, but maybe don't pay collector's prices for it. Also, the studio that made this game made another game, Jungle Park, for the Sega Saturn, and it confuses me.